Hi everybody, this is Nicole from Living Roots Creations, and this is the first segment of my Defense Against the Dark Arts course. So for starters, why are we bothering doing this? The idea that we're running off of is that you see this repetitious idea in different mythologies and ways of spiritual thought that you have an energetic body, and that body consists in the same space as your physical one, but it's interacting with the environment on a different level. And the idea is that the energetic body is susceptible to influences from the environment around you, and that those influences and the health of that spiritual body can impact the health of your emotional and physical selves. And so the idea is that we want to protect and keep unwanted influences, so people who have bad intentions, ways that we might accumulate different inputs and energy from our environments that we don't really need to take around with us, and learn to get those off and away from us and to keep them from becoming a problem in the first place. And so we're going to talk about several concepts, and I'm going to recommend a couple books to you. The first book that I want to recommend is A Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker, and it's somewhat of a traumatic read. But the reason I want to share that book with you and I want you to read it and kind of digest it a little bit is that it teaches you how to trust your intuition. The premise of this book is that it's a compilation of stories of various people who went through traumatic events and had traumatic things happen to them. And the important part is that it's recounting all these different situations where they knew intuitively, their Danger Will Robinson response went off, and they knew that something was wrong with the person or the situation that they were in. And unfortunately, not that it's their fault, but a lot of them chose to ignore that intuitive notion they were experiencing, and bad things happened as a response to ignoring that. And so I kind of operate out of a premise that most people are actually on some level psychic. It's not this esoteric, spooky, abnormality that, a lot of modern cultures have made it out to be. It's actually fairly common, and it starts with what we think of as that sixth sense, as our intuition. And I want you to learn to trust that, because even as looking at it from a purely scientific and psychological standpoint, the reason you're feeling those intuitive pangs, that tingly feeling, that Danger Will Robinson notion, is that your subconscious is picking up signals and input from your environment that it considers to be essential to your survival. And so it's important not to ignore those. And that book, I feel, really paints a good picture in a way that's relatable and urgent for people to learn to be willing to trust their intuition on that level. The second book that I'm going to recommend is Spiritual Protection by Sophie Riker. It's a really nice, down-to-earth, simple way of thinking about some terminology and concepts that we're going to introduce in this video and then continue to build upon throughout the rest of these seminars and in different practices. What we're going to talk about today, is the foundation of psychic self-defense. And so there are 3 terms that I want you to get to know and to understand. The first term is grounding. And grounding is the idea that you are all that input that you are receiving from your environment that's being picked up by your person and by your spiritual body. It can tend to manifest as stress and anxiety in a lot of people if it's held on to, it's that nagging, reoccurring thought. It's the fact that you had that argument with your partner 3.5 weeks ago and you can't quite seem to make it go away. It's that type of residual nastiness that you don't want attached to your person anymore. And so grounding is the means of getting rid of that through the use of shunting off the extra energy onto a spiritual power. Most people will tell you that you need to ground to earth, or that we even ground naturally to earth, and that's not necessarily true. So we're going to talk about, and I really want to emphasize the idea that while, yes, you can do some of this wrong in a way that is harmful to yourself or in a way that offends the spirits, right now in this beginning, we're just worried about finding something that works for you. And we can nitpick all the rest of that later. But if you find that a concept that's suggested isn't working for you, it's okay to challenge that and think of ways to do it differently. For example, I spent the first 4 years of my practice not knowing how to ground because everybody emphasized that I had to ground to earth, and they wanted me to use that god-awful tree meditation that was the bane of my existence for years. And it was this concept that, you visualized your feet opening up into roots, and you went down into the earth, and your limbs became tree branches, and you grew leaves, and you drew in the sunlight and all the good things from the environment around you, and all the bad things went down your feet into the ground. And it's a great idea, but for my astrological people, I am a Sagittarius sun and an Aries rising. I am not somebody who's naturally earthy. I've calmed down a lot in my 30s, but in my earlier years, like when I was 18, 20, not so much. And so that never jived with me. I could never connect with earth really easily on that level. So it never worked. And then when somebody at a convention taught me how to ground to fire, it was a game changer for me. And so the important thing is that you find something that works for you. And traditionally, when we think of elemental grounding, we're thinking of using one of the traditional 4 Persian elements and what you see in most metaphysical guides, where it's earth, air, fire, water. And it doesn't have to be that. It's whatever works for you, whether you're looking from like a more Celtic perspective and it's land, sea, and sky. If you can connect with and conceptualize that energy on a level that works, use it. It's fine. And people will tell you, well, if you ground to air or to water or to fire, you have to then move it to earth. But that's not true. These elemental forces have been balancing themselves and doing that all on their own for millennia. They really don't need your help all that much. And honestly, if you think about it, we're always stressed to ground to earth. But if you have a long day at work, or if you're tired, or if you just want to relax, what's the first thing that most people want to do? You want to get into a hot tub, or you want to go take a nice hot shower or a hot bath. Most people actually ground naturally to water, and that's okay. And you might find, if you're someone who finds that relaxing, that some of your best grounding and banishing work might be done in the shower. And that's our second term that we want to get into, is banishing. And banishing is the idea that you're doing that same, taking the energy that you're shunting away from yourself, that you're getting rid of, and you are just sending it out by whatever means necessary. And that's where you get more into rituals like the banishing ritual of the lesser pentagram, and things that utilize the archangels, and it's just clearing energy. One of my favorite things to use from pop culture for banishing is actually using the Patronus charm from Harry Potter. And it works for a lot of people because it's something that they have seen done on the big screen before, and it might be from a series that they love, and so they can really conceptualize what is going into making that work and why it works. And it works for them, and that's what's important in this part of the practice, is finding something concrete that works for you, that helps you get the work done. And so the last word that we're going to learn is shielding. And shielding is this idea that you are creating a semi-permeable barrier between yourself and the environment around you. So you don't want to lock yourself in, and you don't want to keep everything out, because there are some things that you want to get through. You want to get the sense of what's going on in your environment. You want to get and be able to feel affection from a partner. You want to experience all of those things, but you don't necessarily need to take home your boss having a bad day and yelling at you because they're having personal problems. This is a really important part of the practice for empaths. Actually, both banishing / grounding and shielding are extremely important, because if you're an empath or somebody who tends to take on the emotions and the feelings of others, you kind of get treated like this low pressure system on a regular basis, where just like everybody, and not even consciously doing it, tends to just want to kind of push their extra stuff onto you because you just for some reason appear psychically available to them. And so you tend to just be this place where it's like, okay, you know, this less full area for whatever reason that I can push all my stuff onto. And you don't want people to be able to do that freely. And so the idea is that banishing and shielding can remove that stuff and keep it from attaching. That's a really important combination, and really for everybody. Because like I said, most people on some level have some degree of psychic ability, and you just, as somebody who wants to live a healthy life, don't really need to take home everybody else's baggage. There's a lot, not even esoterically, you're looking from a spiritual standpoint, where it's just helpful. It helps reinforce boundaries. It helps protect you. If you shield well, it's harder for somebody to intimidate you to start a fight because they don't feel like they're getting the feedback they want, to feel like they have that confidence to escalate to physical violence. And so this can be really helpful in numerous situations, even if we're not talking about psychic self-defense exclusively. Because chances are, when you're experiencing those, most psychic attacks are very mundane, sinister things. You know, nobody is probably ever going to burst into your office at work or burst into your home with a wand and say, haha, I challenge you to a duel. That's probably never going to happen to you. Unless you have weird friends, which is okay. But what you are going to encounter are people like the bad boss or the bad in-laws who are having problems within themselves, who want everybody else to have a bad day too. And whether they do that by trying to be a manipulative person, or they're using words to yell at you and attack you. And we tend to discount the power of words in our culture frequently. But if we think about, you know, for example, the Egyptian spiritual paradigm, you think about the goddess Isis, and she became the goddess of magic, not because she was necessarily born that way, but because she tricked Ra into telling her his name, and that gave her control over the power of the universe just by knowing that word. And their entire magical system is set up around the written and spoken word. And words can be very powerful and can be spoken with energy and can do damage to us. And shielding kind of can help reinforce that barrier. It does a lot of good things to help you. And so I have a in-person seminar at the Wandering Owl in Jackson, Michigan this upcoming Saturday from 2 to 4. And that's June 17th, 2017. And if you can make it, go, because we'll be able to accelerate much more quickly with me working with you in person than with me working with you on these videos. And there are some things that I'll teach you in person once we get into the higher level classes that built upon these concepts that I'm not going to be comfortable putting in YouTube videos, because I don't know who's going to find them. I don't want to be responsible for awful things being done to other people. Because you do mostly get, you know, the bad bosses, the crappy person that you meet out in public, the people who you're related to who are just not in their right space. But then you do get the really nasty basic people who want to come after you because they want your job, or they want your partner, or they want something you have that they don't. And we're going to talk about how to deal with them as well. So for the next couple weeks, so I'm going to take a break due to that seminar next weekend. Your homework is going to be to watch some of the videos that I post to this group. And so if you're on YouTube and you're finding me on my channel, go join the Living Roots Creations group on Facebook. And I'm going to post different techniques on how to do grounding and banishing. And I want you to find one that works for yourself and do it every single day. And you may think, I don't have time to do all that. You have to find it. It's really important and crucial, and nothing, even as you become, or if you are a really skilled practitioner already, nothing comes from having nothing good comes from having, things do come up from it, but they're not good. Nothing good comes from having a sloppy grounding and banishing practice, especially, honestly, as you get into more higher level work. There's a lot more capacity to take things home that you don't want to take home, or to end up doing things that you don't want to do. And so find something that works for you. I will be posting some things that I will be teaching you directly in other videos, and I'm going to share a lot of stuff from other practitioners so you can see how different people do things and find out which techniques work best for you. So I look forward to working with you all, and I hope this is helpful, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.